Oh my God, this ticks me off to no end. This is more Me Too bullshit. And some young woman who was sleeping around with this older guy, a lot older, hoping to get a hold of him, get his status. It didn't work out for her, so she went to Congress and lied. Guess what? This guy down here, he lost all his job, his career, no evidence. It's so standard. And this woman doesn't get any punishment. It's the same old, right? Now, this woman, her name is what? Spottiswood. She testified Congress about being sexually assaulted. Now she's being sued. She shouldn't be testifying in Congress. She should be going to the police. The fact she didn't go to the police means she's lying. She doesn't have the evidence. This guy assaulted her. She'd want him behind bars. She can't. So we know that she was sleeping around with him, hoping to get somewhere with him. He said enough, and she got pissed off and just she's lying her ass off in Congress. And guess what? These people fired him. Now this guy, what is his name? What is his name? Chishti? Yeah, Chishti. He's going to sue her, but really he should be suing Congress. He should be suing them for not getting this woman for perjury. Right. And of course, this article Political is going to try and spin this criminal as a victim. So standard. Now, dramatic Capitol Hill hearings, replete with shocking insider testimony, have brought down presidents and demagogues, put would-be Supreme Court justices on the defensive, exposed war profiteers, and revealed deep-seated corruption in federal bureaucracy for more than a century. See how they're building this up? They're basically saying her lies should be let go. We should just believe her because, I mean, this is for the ultimate good. It's what they're trying to say. But an odd defamation lawsuit, filed last month in D.C.'s federal court has the potential to disrupt the Washington ritual of Capitol Hill hearing testimony. And even if it doesn't succeed, it highlights the vulnerability of witnesses who speak out in front of Congress. See, they're trying to make her out as some victim who's been wronged, even though there's been no proof and no trial. And she should just be allowed to spout her lies, because, other people might not be willing to come out. Everyone knows by this, all these congressmen, what's this been going on? Younger women hooking up with men with status and hoping to get somewhere. That's been going on before I was born, way before I was born. All these men in Congress know it. So there's no excuse for them of throwing this guy Chishti under the bus. See, Chishti, the entrepreneur who founded the company behind Invisalign dental braces, lost his job atop the multi-million-dollar AI startup Affinity last year after a former Infinity employee gave congressional testimony that described what she characterized as violent sexual abuse by Chishti. More of the bullshit lie. It's so standard. Now Chishti, a well-connected Washington business figure who was once listed among People's Magazine's top 50 bachelors at the likes of Washington Post, Fred Ryan, amongst, blah, 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 is suing the woman whose claims, which were made publicly after she'd been subpoenaed to testify under oath in a House Judiciary Committee hearing last year. Right. So, and this is another thing that pisses me off. This guy lost his job immediately. This woman has to be dragged to the courts in order to even try to get some kind of justice. You and I, the average guy, we don't have the money for that. So we have no justice against these criminals. This woman is a criminal, period. I'm not allegation. This is an allegation. This is what it is. Why? Because she didn't go to the police. She showed no evidence. She showed nothing. Nothing's been proven. She's just, so her words are just a lie. I can say that. Now, according to Chishti, 51, his relationship with Tatiana Spottiswood, 29, was consensual. Right. This woman, who's 29, she's too good for all those 29-year-old male losers who haven't built up millions of dollars. So she's ignored them, and she's a predator going after older men with money. That's what she is. That's what's going on here. This guy's the predator, she is. Right. Now, it was consensual, albeit unusual, marked, they're talking about the relationship, marked by sharing of minor scratch, bite, whip, and slap marks. Okay, she was into rough sex. And if she wasn't into rough sex, she was willing to deal with rough sex because he liked it, because she wanted to be his new squeeze. Right. Now, this case is about a consensual love affair between Miss Tatiana Spottiswoode and me that was successfully weaponized by Miss Spottiswoode by deliberately lying to and misleading Congress under oath. Right. That's exactly what happened. Right. Because if it wasn't a lie, she would have gone to the police if she was actually assaulted. That's right. This guy's married, by the way, but I can never tell who he's married to. I put Zia Christie's wife. And the first thing they come up with is images of this criminal liar. Where's his wife? Is that her? Who can tell? As a matter of fact, whenever I bring him up, they always mention these sexual allegations. It's like, holy snap, is this his wife? I can't tell. Anyway. Now, get past that. That is, to put it mildly, not the version heard by people who watched the November hearing, who read news accounts that included troubling photos of wounds Spottiswoode testified about having sustained at 17. Encounter in a business trip, who had followed the subsequent story of Christie's rapid-fire ouster after the resignations of A-listers like former British Prime Minister David Cameron from Affinity's advisory board. A harrowing testimony. It's not harrowing, it's just typical. Spottiswoode, now a law student, right? She got together with this guy so she didn't have to become a law student. And he didn't pony up, so now she has to work for a living. So that's why she's after him. Described being groomed at age 21. She should be caned publicly for saying that. You can't groom an adult. Now, she was humiliated in front of colleagues after rebuffing Christine's advances. Okay, she rebuffed his advantages and subjected to traumatizing sexual encounters. How did he get into a sexual encounter if she didn't want anything to do with him? I went to his room. Really? I thought you were rebuffing him, right? Where he beat me while having sex with me. So you two were in the rough sex, right? And I can say this because supposedly she rebuffed his come-ons, but she ended up at his room. What do you do? Notice she's not saying he dragged me there. You know, he snatched me from behind and dragged me to his hotel room. You know, my body was covered with scratches, cuts, and contusions. I had bruises around my neck that looked like I'd been strangled. Okay, she's into strangling too. A large bump on my head and a black eye. A nurse at the hospital said I had symptoms of a concussion. So she hit her head while having rough sex, and she probably got dizzy, had to go to the hospital. Right. The hearing was the most dramatic moment in the legislative push for a bill designed to stop companies. This is what it's about, by the way, everyone. Not just her getting somewhere, but also, this is the political part of it. Stop a bill designed to stop companies from mandating arbitration in sexual misconduct complaints, something that Spottiswoode had been obliged to sign. Aha. So in other words, these high status men were out to protect themselves. They didn't care about us nobodies. We can go rot in hell for all they care, but they want to protect themselves. So they were going to get this woman to sign something where they would handle it in-house. Right. And she turned out to be lying. They'd probably fire her. And something that, according to the critics, companies deployed to protect C-suite predators. Okay, this guy isn't a predator. He hasn't been proven. This guy up here hasn't proven to do anything. It's just this woman just said he did. That's nothing. So he's not a predator. See how political is backing this horse shit? All major league media outlets push the feminist narrative. They push the lies, right? To most ways looking at the effort has been great success. The bill passed by bipartisan support, becoming law in March. Look at this. This is so typical of men. They're signing their lives away to a bunch of women, and then they get pissed off and irate when it comes to roost. That's why I don't really have any sympathy for this guy. All these guys don't give a shit about other men going under the bus. And then what happens to them, all of a sudden they think, hey, this is unfair. Screw you, Christie. So bloody typical. Men should know better by now. No. Christie, though, experienced the hearing as a grave injustice. He didn't experience it was a grave injustice. Unemployed, his reputation in tatters. See, he gets punished straight away just because she said so. He spent the years stewing about having been accused of terrible things and unable to respond. Well, anyone would stew over that. When we spoke this week, he likened the situation to McCarthyism. Somebody took a stage and absolutely eviscerated someone else in Congress and received the Congress's endorsement. And that's why I say he should be suing Congress, not just her. I'd go at the Congress first because him and all his buddies in Congress are on this. Things got this bad because these guys wanted it this way. Now this jackass is getting pissed now that he gets sapped. Screw him. You know. And Congress refused to even contemplate that there would maybe another side of the story or provide an accused party with an ability to defend himself. Yeah, himself. Good. I'm glad he said that. And he's right. Because Congress is in on it. And like I said, this guy himself was in on it. Christie's suit for defamation and other claims, which is accompanied by an exhibit of text messages and other evidence purporting to disprove Spottywood's account, represents his attempt to establish a counter narrative. Will it work? My hunch is no. After a half decade of cultural reckoning over power and abuse in the workplace, in other words, men getting away with having the odd bit of nookie from, do nothing, nobody females, it's hard to imagine most Americans, let's face it, most of the world, pal, especially those who hear Spottywood's deeply unsettling account, being willing to write off horrific allegations against the CEO by a low-level staffer who 2 decades his junior, as he said, she said. See how political points this? Why not? This is he said, she said. It is. This lying sack of hasn't provided any proof to defame this man or slander this man. None. She has given no evidence, no proof, nothing. All it is he said, she said. And here's another thing. Them having the balls to talk about the fact there's 2 decades difference. This young lady won't touch a man her age because he's not high status enough. So this predator, that's what she is, this criminal predator, found her victim. That's what happened here. These young women are let me get her up here. These young women here are the predators, not the older man. Not the older man. They don't want to work for a living and they want to snatch up an older guy who's built up wealth. They don't love him. They don't see him even as human being. He's just a ticket to ride. But even if you're not interested in revisiting the details of just what happened between the two, the case represents a couple of interesting legal and ethical questions in a city where high-profile public testimony is a set piece of political and culture wars. Well, in this case, the war on men. From Christie's point of view, the core conundrum is this. What do you do if you think you've been defamed in congressional proceeding? You didn't think it, you have been. He's surely not the only person who feels mistreated. He doesn't feel mistreated, he has been. He's been fired at a woman's word. So there's no way Political is quoting him. There's no way. They're just spinning this. The fact that he's seemingly unsympathetic figure compounds the challenge. How is he unsympathetic? Just because he's wealthy? No, of course not. He's just male. He's a wealthy guy, right? Well, actually, I was wrong. People don't like him because he's wealthy, and a guy. Technically, someone testifying before Congress is subject to perjury, prosecution for lying, right? But notice they didn't even look into what she had to say or make her prove anything or provide any evidence. The only evidence she provided was that she had marks on her body. But all that can say is that they had consensual sex, right? But in the current climate, or really any climate, no elected official is going to propose criminal perjury action against a young woman for standing up and making allegations against someone like him. What do you mean against someone like him? What do you mean political someone like him? This guy, where is he up here? Christie, he doesn't, as far as this article has spoken, he doesn't have a bad reputation about anything. Nothing. He hasn't conducted any criminal activity. He's just an older man. He's just a man. Let's face it. Even if he was young, it wouldn't matter. He's just a man, and that's a woman, and that's why. Wow, these guys, this is really pissing me off, you know. This woman isn't standing up for anything. She's punishing a man for not dumping his wife and making her the new wife so she could leech off him. That's what this is about. There wasn't a single question that challenged her account, Christie said. Well, duh, it's listen and believe. And the thing about Christie, he would do this same thing to one of these other guys. Suppose it wasn't him, it was one of these other guys. He'd be sitting there quietly like the rest of them, saying, good, another man gone. Another thing, he'd gotten just a day's notice that the testimony would happen and no invitation to share his version since the hearing concerned different topics. See, she was smart. This young lady's a lawyer, right? So she was subpoenaed over something else. And then she just brought it up out of the blue. And since, technically it wasn't a part of the reason she was brought in to testify, she could say it and he wasn't there to defend himself. Didn't have to call him in, right? She knew when to throw it at him. And the reason she'd do this, because obviously she's lying. Which means, in Christie's opinion, it's not his opinion, that he has to go to court to get his day in court. It's not his opinion. He does have to go to court to get his day in court. That's a fact. This courtroom didn't allow him to defend himself, so he's right. It's not just an opinion. Though he's made a great deal of money and has a publicist and other consultants, he's representing himself in the U.S. At this stage, I have nothing to lose, which is true. He says, I'm already out of a job. I don't have any reasonable career prospects going forward. So it's not just that they get fired. They can't get rehired. This guy is a criminal without actually being going through any kind of trial and actually labeled as a criminal by the legal system. This man isn't a criminal, yet he's become one. So in my opinion, it is appropriate to seek redress for the immense harm done to me and my family. Right. Well, dude, if you're married, why'd you touch this woman? And I mean, in this environment, these guys, all these losers should know better. Like, come on. You guys are pathetic. And of course, like they said, they mentioned how she was under subpoena. And because she was under subpoena, they can't use anything she did to testify, I guess, right? Christie's suit avoids statements Spotify made under subpoena, instead targeting communications she and her team may have had with Congress before she was subpoenaed. See, this is how she's protecting it. I'm subpoenaed. That can't be used against me. Now, there's another way of looking at it, though, in which lawsuits like Christie's set a dangerous precedent. This is where political here is going to be back in the idea that men have no rights to defend themselves. If the status quo creates an opportunity for someone in Christie's position, in other words, a man who was screwed over, to be treated unfairly, his lawsuit and similar legal actions he's undertaking against Spottywood in Britain would, if succeeds, represent an ominous risk for witnesses who speak out against powerful, deep-pocketed people. So see what these guys are doing here, how they're spinning this. They're saying if some criminal, woman lies about something just to get even with a man, just to harm a man, we should just let that happen, because these more honest people that have a real, real strike for justice, they might be prevented from coming forward, which of course is a total lie, because the honest people would have to be dishonest. It would only, perjury only matters if you're lying. So if they charge this woman with perjury, she has to be proven to be lying. So this is what disgusts me so much, all the excuse making these scumbags are making. Here's look at this vicious asshole. This is what Spottywood is, vicious asshole. And they're going to make her into the victim. For a young law student like Spottywood, having to fight off that threat that would require a major amount of time and energy, in addition to whatever financial risk it entails, a power disincentive to speaking out. Good. Yeah, these liars should be clammed up. They should know there's consequences if they're perjure themselves in Congress. Damn. I mean, this guy, he himself, he has to put major time and energy and money into something where he's not working anymore. So he's not gaining any money. So he's just becoming impoverished, trying to get some kind of justice. Jeez. They don't care about him. Actually, I take that back. They do care about him. They want him to go down. Can have, the prospect of getting sued for speaking out. No, sued for slander can have a far more chilling effect than workplace consequences. Screw political. Screw you. Yeah, the criminals get a chilling effect. We can't just get away with our criminal activity. It leaves a loophole that leaves whistleblowers defenseless against the ugliest and scariest form of retaliation. Getting sued is not the ugliest or scariest. Being thrown behind bars is far scarier. Screw you, politico. And this woman isn't a whistleblower. She's a criminal liar. And here's another thing. It just shows you, I'll say it because it's about time it should be said, this is just more prostitution. This young lady, like I said, didn't want to deal with the low status men. That's her age. So this predator found a wealthy sucker, and she didn't care that he was married, and she was sleeping around with him, and he was supposed to, I suspect, throw his wife away and go with her because she was younger and prettier. And he didn't do that because her dalliances with this guy was prostitution. That is what the gender dynamics between men and women are. If women liked men for ourselves, she would never have been a predator to this guy. She wouldn't look at him. She'd be looking at guys her own age and her own income level. So that's what I'm ending this off with. Screw political with spin. Screw Congress for throwing one of their own under the bus, and screw this disgusting criminal. Goodbye, everyone.